Joining us now from Maryland, Professor Allan Lichtman, an election Nostradamus, a historian and an expert of US government. But Alan, you had a bit of a rough ride this election, didn't you? You've called a lot of them right, but Trump, it wasn't to be.
Yeah, I've been right for over 40 years. This was an election marked by some very special circumstances. And I admitted immediately I was wrong, and I'm reevaluating. We've never seen before a sitting president, elected nominee, trashed by his own party and forced out right on the eve of the convention. We've never seen two assassination attempts in the midst of a campaign. And we've never seen the kind of disinformation that the billionaires like Elon Musk was putting out, more than 2 billion views of his disinformation. So we learned from our mistakes, and I'm reevaluating. But I've had a pretty good 42-year record.
Not a bad run. But look, you mentioned the sort of roller coaster year that was the US election year, like no other completely. But it feels to me like the roller coaster could just be beginning now. Obviously, you've got Steve Bannon saying that it's going to be shock and awe and days of thunder coming up. We've Fox reporting that there's going to be 200 presidential decrees, executive orders signed the day that the first day of he's in the White House. Back in 2016, it looked like Trump had, was vowed to drain the swamp, vowed to get lots of things done, but actually just got bogged down. Is it going to be different this time, do you think? Do you think he's going to have the political capital and the people around him to actually railroad through some of this stuff?
Yes, I think it'll be very different. I think you'll see Trump unleashed in this term. He can't run again under the Constitution, so he doesn't have to worry about that. He's not going to have people like General Milley and John Kelly and General Mattis around him to restrain him, or Dan Coats, the director of national intelligence. He's appointed solely Trump loyalists to every position. He is covered by immunity by the U.S. Supreme Court. And this time he actually won the popular vote as well as the Electoral College. So you are going to see no restraints on what Donald Trump wants to do. And we really are at a pivotal point in U.S. history. Are we going to be able to preserve the guardrails of our institutions? Are we able to preserve the critical elements of democracy? Or is Trump going to be such an extraordinary disruptor that the critical elements that have sustained American society and democracy for over 200 years are going to be torpedoed?
Wasn't that the message from the American public at this election, though, that 20 years of basically political consensus hasn't worked? The world hasn't really recovered in any way it properly has since the 2008 financial crisis. Add to that COVID. The West is not the West it once was, and the message from the public was sort this out. And Donald Trump is a symptom more than anything else.
Yeah, we've seen this worldwide. Recent elections have not been good for incumbents. They seem to have been grievance elections, different grievances perhaps in different countries. But the truth is, America is not nearly as badly off as the propaganda would make us believe. Inflation has been cut by 2/3 to 3/4. It's down to reasonable levels. Job creation has been a record under Joe Biden. Unemployment is near an historical low. Real wages are up. Crime is down. Society is not falling apart. And we don't need, chaotic fundamental change that threatens the stability of our democracy. That's part of the disinformation that has been so pervasive. When I was a kid, I devoured science fiction. And one of the themes were that a few very rich people would become so rich that they were able to control us and our society. And guess what? We seem to be reaching that point with billionaires like Elon Musk, who was elected to nothing, issuing and controlling so much of what goes on in our politics.
Eva, there is a bit of a split on the right, though, about what you say about these billionaires who've come in and the tech world has taken the knee essentially to Trump. You've got what Steve Bannon described as the broliarchy, Do you think it's sustainable? Do you think Trump will be able to, not fall out with some of these big characters? Because from where I'm sitting, it always seems to me that he likes to be the most important person in the room and doesn't like to share the limelight too much.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a big falling out between Trump and the billionaires because if you look at what he wants to do, it's very much in their interests. Trump is not a populist. I've been screaming about this for many years. The populists developed a movement in the late 19th century of ordinary workers and farmers, and they wanted to control and regulate the big corporation and the very rich of their time. Trump wants to do exactly the opposite. The billionaires and other corporate interests are going to greatly benefit from his proposed tax cuts. He is proposing drastic deregulation that will let them essentially pursue profits without any kind of restrictions or controls. He is opening up new lands and waterways to drilling for oil, padding the profits of the big oil companies. So no, I don't see a falling out. Trump is a phony populist, and his policies greatly benefit those billionaires who are now on bended knee to him.
And you blame
the billionaires and the corporate interests, they run on two things: fear and greed. And they're
you blame
fearful of
disinformation for that,
Trump and greedy on what he can do for them.
And in your view, you blame disinformation for that rather than any other frustrations voters might have. You think they've been conned and lied into this rather than thinking the American system doesn't work for them and wanting to kick back?
Yeah, I do believe that most Americans, or at least many, not most, do believe the system isn't going to work for them. But policies like big tax cuts for the rich, deregulation, deportation of undocumented immigrants who are the mainstay of the agricultural, construction, hospitality, and personal service industry are not going to help them. And big tariffs that raise prices for ordinary Americans aren't going to help them either. The rich are going to get richer. Donald Trump admitted that way back in his first term at Mar-a-Lago when he talked to his rich friends, and he said, guess what? My policies are going to make you even richer. And we are now at a point where the gap between the rich and the rest of us is as great or greater than it was on the eve of the Great Depression of 1929.
What do the left do? What do the Democrats do? How do they turn this around? Obviously, they lost the popular vote. Trump controls the Senate, controls the House for at least 2 years. What's the plan then?
Yeah, Democrats are in big trouble, and I've been saying this for years as well. They could not be worse than when it comes to messaging. The Republicans are trouncing them on messaging. The Democrats really, for decades, have failed to come up with simple, compelling messages. Joe Biden actually achieved more domestic accomplishments than any American president since the 1960s. But nobody knows it because the messaging has been so bad. They've got to reconnect with ordinary Americans and show how their policies are going to improve their lives in a simple, compelling way. And so far, they've terribly failed that test.
Who do you think could lead that charge? There doesn't seem to be a sort of big character yet stepping into the wings. Gavin Newsom's tried it, but obviously he's having a bit of trouble back in his own backyard.
Yeah, I don't see, a figure like a Barack Obama or a Franklin Roosevelt at this point stepping in. But let's understand that sometimes, especially for the Democrats, leaders come out of nowhere. Who had heard of Barack Obama before he burst onto the scene and won the Democratic nomination in an upset over the highly touted Hillary Clinton? Bill Clinton himself came out of nowhere, obscure governor of Arkansas. So it may not be any figure that we are aware of right now who may come on and ride the white horse to lead the Democratic Party.
All right, Allan Lichtman, there's a prediction I'm going to hold you to. Come back and see us soon when you find your Democrat leader. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, happy to do so. You know where to find me. And catch my live show every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. U.S. Eastern at Allan Lichtman YouTube.
See you there. Thank you, Allan Lichtman. Take care.